I went hiking this past fall on the Appalachian trails. I love being outdoors, and I was excited to escape the city. The trees were stunning, full of vibrant colors, and the air felt crisp. The first day was perfect. I set up my tent, made a fire, and sat back to enjoy the view. But on the second day, things changed. I was walking along the trail when I found an abandoned campsite. At first, it didn't seem too weird. People camp all the time, but something felt off. The gear was rusty and the fire pit was cold. A chill ran down my spine. I thought it was just fatigue from hiking, so I decided to move on. But I couldn't shake that uneasy feeling. I felt like I was being watched. As I walked, I noticed shapes moving in my peripheral vision. Maybe it was just the trees, I thought. But then I heard whispers. They were faint, but real. It sounded like laughter, like people were just beyond the trees. The air changed and I felt a sudden coldness, despite the warm sunlight. I picked up my pace, my heart racing. Then I stumbled upon a backpack. It was half buried under leaves. The initials on it were unfamiliar. I hadn't seen anyone else on the trail that day. My gut told me not to touch it, but I couldn't resist. As I reached down to grab it, I heard the laughter again. This time it was clearer. I looked around, and everything was silent. Just me and the crunch of leaves under my boots. I snapped a couple of quick pictures of the backpack and the empty campsite. I thought maybe I could come back with someone to explore this place. Just then, I heard a rustle behind me. I turned, expecting another hiker or a deer, but there was nothing. My stomach dropped. I stood there feeling something wasn't right. Then the shadows between the trees began to shift, moving in ways that didn't make sense. I felt a pull to keep going, but my feet felt glued to the spot. I didn't want to be there. It felt wrong, almost like the campsite wanted me to stay, yet I couldn't make myself leave. "Stay with us." A soft whisper floated through the air. I couldn't tell where it came from. My heart pounded loud in my ears. Suddenly, I stumbled back, ready to run. A thick fog closed in around me, like something was wrapping me up. I could barely breathe, and then it all faded away. I don't remember how I got back to my tent, but I was there, shaken. I had to leave, but I was haunted. What had I found? What exactly watched me that day? I still don't know. I think about that backpack often. I wonder what happened there, and sometimes I feel like I'll never understand. The next day, I tried to shake off the feelings of fear and dread. I told myself it was just my imagination playing tricks, but I couldn't deny that something was off. I packed up my gear, ready to head back. The sun was rising behind the trees, but the light didn't bring the warmth I needed. As I walked down the trail, I kept looking over my shoulder. The feeling of being followed never left me. Each snap of a twig or rustle of leaves made me jump. I wanted to get to my car and drive back to civilization. Then I saw it again. The abandoned campsite. This time, curiosity nagged at me, pulling me toward it. I stepped into the clearing and everything felt colder. The leftover fire pit was covered in ash and leaves, but I could swear it looked like it was still smoking. A thin wisp of fog curled around it, almost inviting me to stay longer. Then I noticed a small wooden sign I hadn't seen before. It was weathered and barely legible, but one word stood out. Banshee. Goosebumps raced up my arms. It felt like a warning. The whispers echoed back in my mind. "Just leave," I muttered, turning to walk away, but the whispering grew louder, swirling around me. It was no longer just laughter. It felt like voices, many voices, filling the air with urgency. My heart raced as I forced myself to move, stumbling away from the campsite. But something stopped me again. A flicker of movement caught my eye near the trees on the edge of the clearing. I froze. A shadow danced, darting between the trunks. I could feel my breath hitch in my throat. Whoever, or whatever was lurking there didn't want me to go. I took a cautious step forward. "Hello?" My voice trembled, the sound swallowed by the surrounding woods. Silence enveloped me, but then I heard it. A low, mournful wail that sent chills down my spine. It felt like the forest itself was mourning something, a lament for souls lost. I turned to run back towards the path, but as I retraced my steps, I tripped over something hidden in the leaves. I pulled it into the light, and it was a small rusted pocket knife. My fingers grazed over the initials carved into the handle. They matched those on the backpack. The echoes around me intensified, swirling into a chaotic chorus. I needed to get out. I could already hear the laughter turning sinister. I bolted down the trail, not daring to look back. The air grew heavier with each step, and something cold brushed against my neck. When I finally reached my car, I fumbled with the keys, desperate to get inside. But as I turned the key in the ignition, the laughter transformed once more. This time, it was softer, more inviting. "Stay with us," the voices cooed, and I felt an overwhelming urge to answer. I slammed my foot on the gas, tires screeching against the gravel. I sped away from that cursed place, but that wasn't the end. I could still hear them. The whispers didn't fade into the distance. They stayed, echoing in my mind long after I left the woods. What had I unleashed? And why did it feel like it wanted me back? I drove in a daze, the trees blurring past me, the mountain road twisted and turned, but I felt like I was in a trance. The whispers had settled into my mind like a persistent itch, urging me to go back. I tried to focus on the road, but all I could see was the campsite, the rusted knife, the chilling sign, and those shadowy movements. When I finally reached the nearest town, I parked outside a small diner. I needed to gather my thoughts, maybe grab a cup of coffee. The bell above the door jingled as I stepped inside, the smell of fried food and burnt coffee hitting me immediately. The few patrons glanced my way, their faces a mix of curiosity and concern. I slid into a booth and pulled out my phone, hoping to see something online about the campsite. Maybe there were others who had encountered the same thing, but no signal, just a spinning circle. I sighed and leaned back heavily against the seat, trying to silence the voices creeping back in. As I waited, a waitress approached, her apron stained with food. She looked like she'd seen a thing or two in her life. "You okay, hon? You look like you've seen a ghost." I chuckled weakly. "You could say that, just a long hike in the woods." "Out by Banshee Camp?" she asked, her eyes narrowing a bit. I nodded, suddenly feeling exposed. "Yeah, how did you know?" Her gaze shifted to the window, then back to me. "Not many make it back out of there. Funny things happen." My heart rate picked up again. "Funny how?" "Just things. Sounds, sightings. Some folks have come back with stories about shadows and whispers like they be following them. You sure you're okay?" Before I could respond, the diner door swung open. An older man, weathered and gaunt, stepped inside. He locked eyes with me, and an icy panic gripped my insides. It was him, the figure I'd seen darting between the trees. He looked just as wild as I remembered, his clothes torn, eyes filled with a haunting emptiness. He took a step toward my booth, and I instinctively slid backward, my breath catching in my throat. I wanted to scream, to run, but something held me there. He pointed a shaky finger at me. "You shouldn't have gone there. They'll come for you." Those words sent a shiver down my spine. I wanted to ask him who they were, but I couldn't find my voice. The whispers crept back in, louder than before, as if responding to his warning. Just then the waitress stepped between us. "Lyle, you need to sit down," she said firmly. "Leave the girl be." He hesitated, his eyes darting between us, then sank slowly into a chair at the far corner. As I watched him, dread pooled in my stomach. With a quivering hand, I reached for my coffee cup, but it slipped from my grasp and shattered on the floor. The crash caused all eyes to turn back to me. The room felt like it was closing in, the whispers in my mind amplifying. Then everything went dark. I blinked, and suddenly I was back in the forest. The campsite loomed ahead, and I could hear the wailing again, sharper, more urgent. My heart raced as I realized I was not just remembering the forest, I was back in it. I needed to wake up. I needed to run. But the shadows were already closing in. I stumbled forward disoriented as the whispers twisted into a chorus of frantic voices. Panic surged through me. I turned to run, but the underbrush tangled around my legs. I pushed through the branches, adrenaline spiking as I fought to escape. Each snap of a twig echoed in the silence, amplifying my desperation. As I broke free from the thicket, I saw it, the campsite. It looked just as abandoned as I'd left it, but the air felt charged, alive with a different kind of energy. I felt it before I saw it. Shadows creeping along the edges of my vision, dark shapes threading through the trees. I spun around, searching for any sign of what lurked behind me, but nothing was there. Just the rustling leaves and my rapid breaths. I needed answers. I had to understand what was happening. I turned to the clearing where the fire pit sat, now a cold, lonely circle of stones. What was left of my phone lay beside it, cracked screen completely dead. I kicked it away in frustration, then froze, the hair on my arms standing on end. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling. No response, just the relentless wailing in the background. I stepped closer to the fire pit, scanning the ground for any sign or clue. That's when I spotted something half buried beneath the leaves, a frayed piece of fabric. I knelt down, brushing the dirt away. My heart sank when I recognized it, the same blue material from the torn shirt the man in the diner wore. As I pulled it free, I felt the weight of eyes on me, the shadows shifting just beyond the clearing. "Hello?" I tried again, though my voice felt small and weak. "Is anyone here?" Silence. Then the whispers grew louder, drowning out the forest sounds. They swelled with urgency, each syllable clawing at my sanity. "Find her. She waits. You must." I pressed my hands against my ears, trying to drown them out. But it only made them sharper. Without warning, I heard a snap, a branch breaking behind me. I spun around, scanning the trees. That's when I saw it, a figure standing just outside the edge of the clearing, shrouded in darkness. I couldn't make out their features, but the silhouette felt familiar. "Who are you?" I shouted, my voice shaking. The figure took a step closer. With every movement I felt a jolt of recognition, a terrifying flicker of memory. The shadows swirled around them, and I stumbled back, fear crashing through me. I had to escape. I turned to run, heart pounding. But the path I had just taken was gone, replaced with looming trees and endless darkness. Desperation clawed at my throat. Gripping the fabric tight, I pulled it closer, hoping it would help reveal what was happening. But as I squeezed my eyes shut, I felt a presence. Warm, almost comforting, brush past me. Close enough that I could almost hear them whisper my name. I opened my eyes wide, determination igniting. I wouldn't let whoever or whatever this was take me. I had to figure out what was going on. But in the growing shadows I realized something was moving behind me, and it wasn't just the trees. I was not alone. I pivoted slowly, scanning the darkness. The shape in the shadows grew clearer, stepping into faint light. My heart sank as I recognized the contours of the familiar silhouette. It was her, the girl from my dreams, veiled in the mysteries of my mind. One I thought I'd never see again. Her eyes glimmered with an intensity that made every instinct urge me to flee. But I couldn't. "Where have you been?" I stumbled over the words, desperate for clarity. But she didn't respond. Instead, she pointed toward the trees behind me, a trembling finger indicating something I couldn't quite see. I turned to look, but again I saw nothing. Just more shadows falling like curtains over the forest. "What do you want?" I shouted, frustration seeping into my voice. The whispers lingered in the air, echoing between the tree trunks. "Find her." Her voice drifted through the night, faint yet clear like a distant bell. "She waits." It felt like ice water coursing through my veins. I could barely breathe, all the thoughts cascading into chaos. "Who waits? What are you talking about?" As if summoned by my confusion, the darkness around me shifted. A slow, deliberate rustle emerged from beyond the trees. My pulse quickened again, a blend of anxiety and intrigue. "I can't do this. I need to know what's happening." The girl took a step forward, her shadow elongating. "You're closer than you think," she said cryptically, the chill of her breath mingling with the evening air. "Follow me." "Wait," I replied, but she was already moving, a glimmer of hope mingled with dread. I hesitated only for a moment before deciding to follow, feeling as though I had no other choice. We weaved through the trees, the underbrush crunching beneath my feet. Each step I took led me deeper into the suffocating blackness. But just as I settled into pace behind her, she vanished into thin air. One moment she was there, the next, gone. Great. Just great. I mumbled to myself, feeling the panic surging again. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I could sense the shadows narrowing around me. The whispers clamored louder, urgency now mixed with an edge of fear. "Find her. She waits." With my heart racing, I turned back toward the clearing, but it was gone. The trees twisted into unfamiliar shapes, blocking any trace of the path I had taken. My breath quickened. I had entered a maze, and every instinct told me I needed to find the girl, to discover who she was and why I was drawn to her. Then, just off to the side, I spotted a glimmer. Half hidden among the roots of an ancient tree, something metallic winked at me. I approached cautiously and dug my fingers into the dirt. When I finally unearthed it, I realized it was a small locket, intricately designed and cold to the touch. As I opened it, a picture slipped out, fluttering away in the wind. I lunged for it, but a shiver ran through me when I caught sight of the image inside. The girl. It was her, but much younger. I turned, shouting for her, desperate. But the wind carried my voice into the night, unanswered. Now I was the one who was waiting for something I wasn't sure was ever coming. I looked down at the locket, the girl's face still lingering in my mind. The air felt thick, and the whispering shadows all around me pulled on my thoughts. "I need to get back," I muttered, forcing my legs to move despite the fear that gripped me. Then, something caught my eye, a flicker of light in the distance. I took a tentative step toward it, my heart pounding. Each brush of leaves against my legs felt like a warning, but the glow attracted me like a moth to a flame. The light danced gently, flickering as if beckoning. Maybe it could lead me back, or perhaps to her. The closer I got, the more the surroundings seemed to warp. The forest opened slightly, leading to a small clearing where the light brightened. It was a campfire, crackling softly. My breath caught when I noticed figures gathered around it. A group of people sat in a circle, their laughter echoing through the trees. I hesitated. Were they friends or foes? My instincts nudged me to turn around and flee, but something compelled me to stay. I needed answers, and perhaps they had them. I stepped into the clearing. "Hello?" My voice trembled slightly. The laughter stopped. All eyes turned to me. Their gazes were unnerving and curious. They looked just like normal hikers, but there was an unsettling energy radiating from them. "Lost, are you?" one of them asked, his tone too casual, too knowing. He was lean with tousled hair and wore an odd assortment of mismatched clothes. I don't know," I stammered. "I just saw a light." The group exchanged glances and their expressions shifted. growing serious. "The light chooses who it shows itself to," a woman chimed in, her voice smooth but chilling. "What are you looking for?" I thought of the girl and the whispering chaos of the woods. "I'm looking for someone," she said to find her. The air shifted. A heavy silence fell over the group. They seemed to lean into their collective intrigue, their eyes sparkling with a mix of fascination and something darker. "Many seek," the man said, standing up now, "but few find." He stepped closer, almost invading my space. "What will you give for the truth?" I recoiled, startled by his intensity. "I just want to know where she is, who she is." The group began to murmur amongst themselves, and I felt an alarming wave of dread wash over me. The night around us seemed to thicken, wrapping its chill fingers around my spine. "You need to understand that knowledge comes at a cost," the woman pushed, her voice now low and sinister. "What kind of cost?" I demanded, feeling the weight of uncertainty settle heavily on my shoulders. But before they could respond, a loud crash echoed through the trees. It came from the direction I had just come from, and all eyes turned sharply toward the sound. Panic surged through me as I felt the forest pulse with an unsettling energy. "Run!" I blurted out, but it wasn't just a suggestion. Something was coming. I had an instinctual sense that the shadows were more alive than I realized, and their purpose was becoming all too clear. Before I knew it, I was darting away from the fire and the group, adrenaline propelling me forward. As I sprinted deeper into the trees, heart racing, my mind screamed for answers I still didn't have. Then I heard it again. A voice in the distance. "Find her. She waits." In that moment, I knew I had to choose, continue running or confront the darkness head-on. I bolted through the underbrush, branches clawing at my clothes. The voice echoed louder, clearer, cutting through the night. "Find her. She waits." I could almost feel the words wrapping around me like a vine, guiding me but terrifying me at the same time. I dashed past trees that loomed like silent sentinels, my heart pounding in my ears. I couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone was chasing me. Whatever had crashed back there was relentless. The darkness seemed to stretch and twist, taunting me, and I was bewildered by what might be lurking just beyond my sight. Just as I thought I might collapse from fear and exhaustion, I stumbled onto a narrow path that glimmered faintly in the moonlight. It felt almost alive, like it had been waiting for me, begging me to follow it. I hesitated, glancing back at the clearing. The group with their intense gazes felt like a memory now, a half-formed nightmare. Still, I had to make a choice, the path or the woods. The voice pulsed again, urging me to move forward. With trembling resolve, I stepped onto the path, hoping it would lead me to the girl. The deeper I went, the more the air shifted. It was suffocating. Then, something shifted in the shadows. I turned to look, heart racing. My breath caught when I saw an outline, someone standing just off the path. I froze, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. It was a girl. Her features were shadowy, blending with the darkness. She wore a simple dress and long hair flowed down her back. Though her face was obscured, I felt an intense pull towards her. Was this the girl I was searching for? You're her," I whispered, stepping closer. She didn't answer. Instead, she tilted her head, staring into the trees as if sensing something I couldn't see. Then, without warning, she began to move away. Panic flared within me. "Wait," I shouted, following her, but the path felt alive. It twisted unexpectedly, pulling me off course. I stumbled, nearly losing my footing. "Where are you going?" I gasped, desperation spilling into my voice. Suddenly, branches snapped somewhere behind me. I turned, a jolt of fear shooting through me. The sound was close, too close. "Please, I need to find you," I called out again. But the girl was already fading into the shadows, vanishing as quickly as she had appeared. As I felt the panic rise, an eerie chill swept across the clearing. It was then that I stumbled upon a wooden sign half buried under leaves. I knelt to clear it off, my breath hitching as I saw the name carved deeply into the surface. Harper's Hollow. That name tugged at something inside me. I glanced back down the path, where the sounds of branches snapping grew louder. I had opened a door I couldn't close. Someone or something was hunting me. And I realized then, I wasn't just searching for the girl. I was in deeper than I understood, and the forest had its claws in me. I stood, fear twisting my gut. I had to decide, stay and wait for whatever was coming or press on into the unknown. But I could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on me. Before I could resolve my thoughts, the shadows swelled, and a figure broke through the trees. I was trapped between the path that promised answers and the approaching darkness that threatened to swallow me whole. I barely had time to process the figure emerging from the woods. It was tall and rugged, silhouetted against the fading light. My heart raced, and primal fear clawed at my throat. "Who are you?" I managed to croak out, my voice trembling. The figure took a step forward, revealing a face that was wild and unkempt. Scratches lined his cheeks, and his eyes reflected something beyond madness. "You shouldn't be here," he warned, urgency filling his tone. "This place, Harper's Hollow, it's not just a name. It's alive, and it watches." Before I could react, a loud crash echoed from deeper in the woods. The man's gaze snapped to the sound, his expression shifting from fear to something darker. "They've sensed you," he said, stepping back as if the ground itself was on the verge of collapsing. "You need to leave, now." I hesitated. The warning stirred something within me, both curiosity and dread clawed at my insides. "I can't just run," I replied, my voice edging on defiance. "I'm looking for someone. A girl." The man shook his head violently, as if trying to shake off a terrible memory. "She's not what you think," he insisted. "Harper's Hollow takes those who come for her," he whispered, fear dripping from his words. "It twists them. They become part of it." A chilling breeze swept through the clearing, rustling the leaves like whispers. "No, no," I said to myself, glancing back at the dark path where the girl had vanished. "I can't be part of this. I have to find her." Then, without warning, the shadows around me thickened, twisting like smoke curling around a flame. The air grew heavier, and I could hear the soft weeping of a girl faintly in the distance, echoing through the trees. It was her voice, pulling me with an almost magnetic force. The wild man reached out to pull me back. "Don't!" But it was too late. The lure of the voice took hold, driving my feet toward the darkness that beckoned. "I have to go!" I shouted, fighting against him. He stumbled backward, eyes wide. Suddenly, frenzied whispers filled the air, swirling around me like desperate hands. "Find her. She waits." The words were no longer actionable. They were a command. I broke from his grasp and stepped deeper into the shadows, ignoring the urgent yells fading behind me. As I moved, the atmosphere shifted. Branches became fingers clawing at my skin. The cry grew louder, more desperate. "Help me! Help!" I pressed forward, my breathing quickening as I felt something rush past my ear. Then everything went dark. I stumbled, my foot catching on a root, and fell hard to the ground. Rain pelted down, suddenly saturating the earth around me. In the silence that followed, the girl's voice stopped, leaving a haunting void. I lay in the mud, panting, scanning my surroundings. Confusion enveloped me. There was almost a palpable change in the air, as if the trees themselves had turned their gaze toward me, curious and hungry. That's when I saw it. A pair of glowing eyes staring back from the underbrush, unblinking and intent. My heart dropped. This place held secrets darker than I could ever fathom, and whatever was watching wouldn't let me go easily. I froze, my heart pounding as those eyes bore into me. They were alive, filled with a strange mix of hunger and curiosity. I tried to back away, but the ground felt like quicksand, pulling me deeper into the muck. The rain fell harder, drenching me and masking my fear with a sharp chill. I knew I had to get up. I needed to escape, but my legs were heavy, weighted down by more than just the mud. It felt like a presence was holding me down, taunting me with every passing second. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the trees. The glowing eyes shifted, then disappeared. I scrambled to my feet, heart racing as I scanned the area. "Hello, is anyone there?" I called, my voice quaking. No response came, just the relentless rhythm of the rain. Then I heard it, a rustle in the bushes just behind me. I spun around, my breath hitching, ready for anything, but what emerged was not what I expected. It was a small, scruffy dog, soaked and shivering, with wide, hopeful eyes. A sense of relief washed over me, but it was short-lived as I spotted the glimmering eyes again, watching from a distance. "Come here, buddy," I urged the dog, hoping it would follow. In that moment I felt a slight flicker of reassurance. Maybe if I had some companionship, I wouldn't be so vulnerable. But the dog hesitated, glancing back toward the underbrush. I could almost see the fear in its eyes. A loud snap echoed from the trees. I felt my pulse quicken once more as I turned to where the sound had come from. The shadows around me stirred, twisting as if alive, and from them emerged a figure, a faceless presence cloaked in darkness. It felt like the air had gone still and I could barely breathe. Instinctively, I grabbed the dog and stared into the void where the figure loomed. Its shape shifted, growing larger, obscuring everything around it. Could this be what the wild man was talking about? Had I distorted reality by stepping into Harper's hollow? "Leave us alone," I shouted, voice trembling. But deep inside I feared that I was merely strengthening its hold on me. The presence shifted closer, and a cold laugh rippled through the air, echoing in my mind. The dog whimpered, backing away, but I held it tight. I needed to focus, to think. The wild man's warning gnawed at my thoughts. I had to find the girl before it was too late. Finding my courage, I took a cautious step forward, defying the dark. "I'm not afraid of you," I declared, though my own voice trembled with uncertainty. The figure halted, as if my resistance had surprised it. With that thin gap of defiance, I turned back toward the unseen path, heart racing. I had to keep moving. But as I looked ahead, I noticed another flicker of light in the distance. The shadows receded slightly, revealing an outline of something or someone hovering just beyond the trees. That's when I realized I might have found the girl after all. But a sinister chill crept down my spine. Would she be the same as I remembered? Or had the hollow twisted her as it twisted everything else? I was too caught in its web to back down now. The girl was close, but so was something I could not comprehend. I had to make a choice, and fast. I took a deep breath, feeling the clammy air weigh heavily on my chest. The flickering light pulsed rhythmically through the trees, urging me forward. I glanced back at the faceless figure still lurking in the shadows, its cold laugh echoing in my mind. There was no time to waste. I shook off the dread clinging to my limbs and darted toward the glimmer. As I drew closer, I noticed it wasn't just the light. It was a fire pit, ringed with familiar stones. Panic surged again as I recognized it as the abandoned campsite from earlier. But this time, it felt alive. The flames dancing with an unearthly vibrance, as if they held secrets of their own. The warmth beckoned to me, instilling both dread and an agonizing pulse of hope. Just beyond the fire I saw her. The girl. She stood there ethereal and hauntingly familiar. Her form flickered like a mirage, shifting between her younger self and a shadow of someone older. "You came," she said, her voice soft yet unnervingly distant. "Where have you been?" I stepped closer, desperation lacing my tone. "They kept saying to find you. Who are they?" For a moment she glanced at the shadows, and I felt an electric current run through the air between us. When she turned back, her eyes sparkled with an unsettling mixture of mischief and sorrow. "You shouldn't have come here. This place, It's a crossroads for lost souls. What does that mean? I pressed, the words rushing out in a desperate plea. What does the hollow want? The hollow feeds on fear and longing, she explained, seemingly lost in a memory. Those drawn to it often find themselves trapped. The whispers, the shadows, they wait for you to stumble, to lose hope. Her gaze darkened. You're here because you're afraid of losing someone. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her words settle over me. I came for you, I said, trying to understand. But her eyes widened, as if sensing something I could not. You have to leave now, she urged. It's coming. Before I could ask what it was, the ground shuddered, and a gust of wind swept through the clearing, snuffing the fire. Darkness closed in around us, writhing and twisting with urgency. The laughter roared back, loud and deafening, echoing through the trees. Fear surged within me, rising like a tide, and I stumbled backward. No, I need answers, I cried out, looking for her once more, but I could barely see her form in the total blackness. The whispers surged like a tidal wave, echoing warnings and promises that clawed at my sanity. Only a moment passed before the chilling silence fell again. I took a tentative step, my heart pounding, the voices quieter now but ever present. What are you trying to tell me? I whispered into the oppressive darkness, feeling utterly surrounded. Then, a figure emerged from the mist, a shadow moving swiftly, a haunting silhouette that felt disturbingly familiar. My heart raced as it stepped closer, revealing the wild-eyed man from the diner. You shouldn't have come back, he shouted, his face pale. You need to run. But the girl, I started, feeling myself tugged between the two worlds. Don't you see? She's trapped just like the rest of us, he yelled, desperation tinging his words. You think you want to save her, but Harper's Hollow only seeks to claim you both. The whispers sharpened, swarming around us. I felt the urge to escape surge, but something deeper urged me to remain rooted. The boundaries between fear and longing collided in that moment. Was this girl I sought truly lost, or was it something else entirely? A reflection of my own fears. Leave. Now, the man shouted, eyes wide with panic, and suddenly it hit me. The choice was never just about her. It was about me, confronting my darkest fears in this place that thrived on them. I turned and sprinted back through the woods, fueled by instinct and adrenaline. The whispers stirred. They seemed to shift from desperate to furious as I tore through the trees. Branches scratched my arms, trying to pull me back, but the thought of that haunting laughter resolved my path, propelling me forward. Ahead, a faint light broke through the trees, the other side of the crossing. I pushed harder, heart in my throat, fighting against whatever the hollow intended. I dove toward the light like a shipwrecked sailor headed for shore, and then, without warning, I burst out into a clearing bathed in moonlight. The oppressive weight of the darkness fell away as a deep breath filled my lungs. I had escaped, at least I thought I had. In my mind, the laughter echoed still. And as I turned back toward the woods, the whispering shadows paused, leaving an unsettling silence in their wake. I felt a pull, an urge that I couldn't shake. Had I freed myself, or had I simply fled? I stood there breathless and shaken. Somewhere in the distance I could still hear her voice, faint but lingering, beckoning me from beyond the trees. I knew one thing for sure: Harper's Hollow had not finished with me yet. I turned my back on the forest, but I couldn't shake the feeling that a part of me remained behind, a shadow lost between worlds, tethered to the whispers that would forever haunt my thoughts. I moved away from the forest, not knowing if I would ever return, but knowing that some part of me would always linger in the darkness, searching for answers I might never find.